Welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Presented by Patriot Patch Company and forpatriots.com. Say hi. Say goodnight, Gracie. There you go, Ross. You haven't seen her in a while. Ooh, speaking of haven't seen, look at this fancy duds I got sporting. And my beverage container.
Where the hell did you get the cup from? Oh, that how we doing it?
So,
Nick, did your mom have something to do with this?
No. I've teamed up with the Southern Gals Crafts, which is Chris Brannon's wife and her friend. And these are the samples, which are going to be available hopefully soon. I'm not sure. We got to work out the details on all that yet. But we're going to have T-shirts and mugs. So we're looking at this one. There was another one that we were toying around with that instead of having the powder background would have an American flag background. So, but yeah, when that goes live, I'll let everybody know and post links all over the place. So
look nice.
Yeah. Shirt's nice and comfy. So one of the other things is I just posted on the Reloading Podcast Facebook page, not the group. We are doing a Patriot Patch Company patch giveaway. There will be 10 entries there. And then we've got to give away another 20. I know it's terrible. We got to give away 30 patches. So before the end of August. So I've got to come up with the other two ways that we're going to give away those other 20. Or the other ways we're going to give away those other 20. So, but we're using IO Gleam on Facebook to do that giveaway, and then we'll come up with some other ways on the other giveaways. So it may just come down to whoever sends me the most money.
Bribery goes a long way, fellows.
That's right. Anyway, so other than that, work, and that's about it. How about you, Sharenda?
Lots of camping. Well, not lots of camping, but I did my first thing of booking my own camping site and took a couple of friends. It was
an experience.
Yeah, I won't be experiencing that with them again. I got the Armed Woman of America conference coming up this week. I got stuff. I just can't think right now because I'm tired from the heat. Mm-hmm. Got a few classes. Gonna be doing a class on how to raise meat rabbits and process them. It just dawned on me most of the women in our organizations know how to process birds and large game, but kind of like question the small game. So thought that'd be interesting. And mentoring a dove hunt coming up. Still working on our women's weekend, and there's some stuff in between, I'm sure. I just haven't checked my email yet. Tree climbing practice next week for me too.
Yeah.
Yep. And I've started pre-scouting. I put in for my first city draw. I call it the urban draw, where you get permits to hunt in the city parks because the deer are out of control over here, which I hope we get it. It'll be the first time we've all put in for one. It's going to be all women. And it's 15 minutes from my house, which is great. And there are definitely deer there. Like, we were scouting and found tons of trails, and right when we were leaving, deer just popped out. I was like, oh, this is great.
Sweet.
Is that bow and arrow?
Yep, it'll be for archery. I'm going to use compound since it's so close to home and they want us to harvest. I forgot what the limit is, but there's quite a few they want us to harvest. And I think, no, I'm going to use crossbow. And then there's a couple, I think they may use compound, but I'm gonna try to fill all those tags. Then I'm done for the season, and all I can do is mentor the rest of the season.
Good. Good.
Nice.
That's about it. Oh, and I'll have new teeth coming soon. So be prepared. I'm just gonna be I'm just gonna be on, just smiling for no reason, not saying nothing, just holding the sign saying new teeth. Who this? That's the plan.
Okay.
That sounds dangerous.
Ray, what have you been up to?
Been out at Nick's working. Been doing some wiring in his garage. Put in 3 new circuit runs out there. So his garage originally had 1 outlet, and I think you've got what now? About 12. Yeah, quite a few. 1 dedicated just for his freezer, and the rest 2 runs. Did all that. Then last weekend we had a family reunion up in Omaha. You know, come back home, and I'm home this week and back on the road next week. So keeping me running.
Ray, you are the most unretired man that I have ever heard of.
I've known too many people just retire and sit there and die. I figure I got to keep busy, and I think I'm more busier now when I had a full-time job. But that's all right. My daughters, I say Nick just finished his house, got moved in. My daughters got an offer in her house and they accepted it, so we're waiting to close on that. And I'm sure once she moves in there, I know I've got a few things I've got to do there just from the inspection. I'm going to have to update, and so got enough work to keep me busy.
Good.
That's all I've been doing.
Nick, what about you, Nick?
Not too much. Just busy with work. Finally getting finished 100%, getting settled in. Gonna start work on my bench this weekend probably. But a couple more things from I forgot I'd picked up at the show 2 weeks ago. I picked up some
Some new 8x57 dies.
Yep, 8x57 dies. These ones are actually interesting. They're a 318 diameter. So, but for I think it was like $30. So that was a no-brainer, especially for CH4D, which are basically custom dies. And then also picked up a 30-06 case gauge for right about $20.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Other than that, that's about it, really. And
what do you got bids on?
Nothing right now.
Nothing.
I contacted I contacted a few auction houses on some stuff, see if they can ship it, because they said they kind of have limited shipping. But I'm not going to go ultra high on anything. But if it stays dirt cheap, I'll throw a bid in. But no guns right now. Guns are on the hold because my FFL is in the being amended stage. Change of address, so you technically can use your FFL or CNR on that, but I'm just gonna hold off, and I spent enough at the show a couple weeks ago on that, so got to get a bench built. That's the big thing.
Okay.
So what auction sites are you looking at?
I use HiBid mainly, is the main one I use.
Okay.
And I use that one auction house that's up near you, Mike, that you've kind of showed me stuff. I can't think what their name is.
Hanson.
Yeah. I get their emails all the time.
Yep.
I use proxy bid ever so slightly. I don't care for the way you go through their website. I prefer HiBid because you can just type in the topic you're looking for. It's going to bring everything up. On proxy bid, you do the same thing. You type the topic in, it sorts it by your fancy auction houses first. All your mom and pop auction houses kind of get buried in there. So, but
okay.
Yeah, you've got a few projects you got to get done before buying more guns.
No, I know. Yeah, this isn't gun. It's not a gun. It's actually reloading stuff. So,
Yeah.
like I said, it's one of them's a RCBS turret press. It's at like $5 right now. Ends in a couple days. So I emailed the auction house, see if they'll ship it. And then this other auction house has 2 of the RCBS Pro melts. They're older model, not the new model, but they're at like $10.
Ooh,
And they're
Hybit
looking
has an app.
and exactly. And I did download the app. The new Hybit app is pretty good. I will say that. But they're at like $10. And if they'll ship them, hey, for 10, 15, $20, I do like the old method because it's got the nice knob on the side for the temperature control. And plus you can drill right through that base if you're mounting it to a cart. So
Okay. Quiet today.
Sorry. I'm texting.
So what's new with you, Paul?
Not a whole lot. Just getting done with all the doctors and all that kind of stuff. Everything is pretty leveled out, which is good. So
Yay.
yeah. I had the doctor had me go in again for some blood work because I had an LDL level of 0. And
that's not right.
Yeah, well, that's why they had me go in again, but it actually was printed out as 0. So that blood work, a little higher on the A1C, not bad, but a little bit higher. But other than that, what the heck? And
I mean, granted, 0 is in the standard range, but
yeah, it is.
I had to go look that up quick because I can never remember which one LDL and HDL. So
yeah, the doctor has said he's never seen one that was listed as 0. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I took another test today, so the vampires were after me, and then I had to go for a vision test today. Had all the drops and all that kind of stuff. I'm finally able to see halfway decent, and yeah, that was other about shooting and reloading. That's going to be why we're kind of talking about our topic for tonight. So, why cheap tools are bad.
Okay, so I want to set some ground rules here.
Uh-oh.
What we're talking about is when we're talking cheap tools, I'm not talking that everybody has to get everything that Paul has. That's a goal. And trust me, I would love to have all the equipment that Paul has or that Bench Addict has. It's not practical for me because my budget doesn't allow it. But what we're talking about is you can have reasonably inexpensive tools that are still good quality.
Yes.
What you don't want is cheap tools. Let's face it, you go into Harbor Freight, some of the stuff you stay the heck away from. Some of the stuff's good, some of it's not. Now, you can go to Sears and walk through their tool department, and there's stuff you can buy and there's stuff you can't buy. So it's not necessarily the place you're going, it's the tools themselves, and you need to kind of, take a look and kind of figure that stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're kind of talking about.
And just so people understand, it's just not the tools that you buy for measuring things. It's the accessories that go along with it. Okay, so we'll get into what I'm talking about, but there are cheap alternatives that work better. Okay, They may be a little bit more money than what we're talking as a standard items, but they seem to make your measurements easier and more accurate.
So here's an example. The Lee safety scale versus pretty much any other beam scale out there. Now, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The Lee safety scale, once you learn how to use it and you can get good at using it, it's a great scale. However, it's horrible to try and learn. For most of your scales, there is a graduation on the scales that I'm not out of there. Come on. You go back in there. I guess I should have done this earlier. Bye. Okay, everybody be scared. Present extra camera. Not that one. All right. So this is off my RCBS, whatever their current base scale is. You know, I got to add it to the, there we go. And then there. Okay, so this is their current scale. Stop it. All right, so you can see the graduations. You've got, it goes up by tens, and then it goes from 0 to 10, and then it goes from, on the end, 0 to 1 in tenths. Very clear markations, very clear. On the Lee, they literally have a slider with 3 holes in it and then a bunch of vertical white lines. And so you have to slide it across until you get all 3, you get 3 white lines all perfectly lined up in those 3 holes. And that's how you tell where you're at. So it's very not user-friendly. So that's what I'm talking about here. And that's one of the reasons it's cheaper than everything else. You know, now there are some scales out there, especially electronic scales. Hornaday's GS 1500, their first edition, garbage, absolute garbage. Does not keep anything. So, as you'll find with most of your electronic scales, especially if you want to try and trickle. So now, however, I did find this little beastie from National Metallic, and I'm not bothering to fire up the other camera. I'm just showing this quick. We posted this in Discord a few weeks ago. It was on sale. This one's actually a really good electronic scale, and it was only $25. It's consistent. It'll actually allow you to trickle powder into it, and it'll adjust. Where most of your electronic scales under $100 will not. Forget it. You have to actually take the powder container back off, zero the scale again, put it back on, and then you can re-get your measurement. So, you know, it's that type of thing. What else? What else, Paul?
Well, I'm just want to clear a couple of things up. First of all, the electronic one is a scale. Okay. The beam ones are a balance.
Okay.
All right. So what you're actually doing is moving poises to certain weights. So what you're doing is saying this weighs, let's say 54.5. Okay. So you move 54.5. All right. So that says that's putting that much weight onto the scale on the on the negative end, and you're putting in on the positive end and getting up to 54.5. So that is a balance. Then we got a scale, and the scales in the cheap range are sitting there going, they're strain gauge. Okay. And strain gauges have these little programs in them saying, we don't want to drift. We don't want to drift. We don't want to drift. And you're sitting there trying to trickle powder in, and the scale is fighting itself. Is he adding weight, or is this drift? So that's a cheap strain gauge scale. And you have to be really careful with the cheap scales, because some of them will work, but a lot of them won't. And to be accurate, and I'm not talking, the 200, the 200ths of a grain or whatever. I'm talking just to be within a tenth of a grain or 2/10 of a grain. Either way, they can be off that much. Balance beams, some balance beams, and you have to take a balance beam has to be taken care of. So it's part of making the tool work. It has to be kept clean. So that's my rants on scales and balances. You have to keep your balances clean on the knife edges, and you have to look to see what is practical for you. We had a discussion on Discord where some of the individuals were asking about scales and balances, and to find out that he's loading handgun rounds and maybe some 223 in the future. A balance beam is fine. You don't need a $600 scale or a $300 scale. You can get a perfectly good balance beam, and for $90, $100, and you're fine. You're not going to be weighing cases in it. You're not going to be sitting there going, I want to weigh the water volume of my 223 brass. It's just not what you're going to do. So
So Six Pack Project said digitals can't be scales, strain gauges, and our electronic balance. It's only as good as a reference resistance. Balance beams are a scale you have a physical weight that they reference.
That's a balance beam, which is what we're using, which is what we're talking about. And a scale is a reference to a measurement that the electronics take into effect. So it is a scale.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So balance beams are kind of probably the single biggest area that I see that people try and scrimp on and pay the price. So
we'll have to agree to disagree, Six Pack Projects. But yeah, that is one area. The next area I'd like to cover are the things we use to measure. Okay. Measure cases. And I want to start first with the things we attach to calipers. Okay. We attach things like the Hornady bullet comparators, the Hornady case shoulder measurements. We have cartridges where we stick in the chamber and push a bullet into it. I spent a couple of hours on Sunday talking to a member, trying to set a shoulder back 0.02 of an inch. Okay. And we were working first with the Sinclair shoulder bump gauges, and we weren't getting a very good reading. And I didn't understand why. Now, the thing that we need to talk about is that we were using a $1,200 reloading press with shell holders that went from -2,000 to +8,000, and a set of Reading dies, and they are a shoulder, a body die, a neck bushing die, and then of course the seating die. And we didn't get that far in almost 4 hours. So between the Hornady and the Sinclair, the Hornady reads on an edge. Okay, so in other words, it does not take into account the complete shoulder angle, where the Sinclair bump gauge takes into a complete shoulder angle. In other words, in order to measure the case, you have to know the angle of the shoulder in order to measure it. And with the Hornady, you just need what they call a diameter to measure somewhere on the shoulder of the case. Being a very thin measurement on an angle with the Hornady, I find that people can push hard on it or not push hard enough. They don't get a good feel for the case, and it leads to high and low measurements. Anyway, we had worked on a few hours on trying to get the shoulder set back to what we were looking for, and I finally got mad, and I told him I spin the die a full half of a turn, come back, and the Hornady gauge all of a sudden measures 6,000 shoulder setback. Measure it 5 minutes later, and I got 4,000 setback.
Is that possible? Part of that was springback.
Well, that's what we're trying to get to here. We put the Sinclair gauge onto it, we get back to 6,000.
So here's my question.
Sure.
Is it possible that he's not being consistent putting the brass in the Hornady?
Thought so, but sit down and have them do 10 cases in a row.
Okay.
And first case comes out at the 6 again. Okay. And then go down the line, and we're at 4, 4, 4, 4, all of a sudden 3. Start over again, do the same thing again. Have them switch then to the Sinclair, and we get the 6 again, but we go 5, 5, 5, 3. You understand where we're going here? In other words,
same caliper each time.
Same caliber each time, same thing, the whole 9 yards. But the Sinclair gauge has got the angle cut into the measuring device. So in other words, you have a 20-degree or 25-degree recess, whatever the angle of the case is, you have it in the negative form on the Sinclair gauge. So, and it's called, they call it their Sinclair shoulder bump gauge, and because it's a full circumference at the correct angle in steel, I feel that you get, and I know you get a better measurement out of it altogether.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, with the Hornady comparator gauge set up, and I was looking to see if I have mine close, and I don't know where the heck it went. But you have to practice very carefully putting the brass in the same spot every single time with the exact same pressure every single time. And it's maybe the Sinclair is a little more forgiving in the pressure area.
Sure, it is, because it's covering the whole circumference and angle of the case.
Yeah.
So you're getting a complete coverage of that case. Okay. So this is one of the things, that I'm saying, and it's a pretty much the same type of situation that Hornady has, except instead of a thin line, it's taking a larger area and a larger surface area to measure that, to keep track of the measurement of the case. So that's the first thing that we found. Next is the dial calipers or electronic calipers. Match set of eye gauging digital calipers. One would read different than the other, even zeroed. So, we're talking, a $45 set of digital calipers. I like eye gauging. My other tools that I have from them, my ball mics, my pinpoint mics, my regular micrometers and such, they've seemed to be and are very accurate according to what I have. But this is the first time that I've seen a difference in the exact same unit, and giving different readings. And again, it could be that, one is dirty someplace, one is weak battery. I mean, there's a number of different things we could talk about on, as far as how they could be off. But I want to know what people here feel about, maybe a little higher end, $95, maybe $100 set of calipers, digital calipers. I mean, you can get a set of Minotoyos for $120. Okay. Does the name mean a lot?
Typically, Minotoyo is one that's been loved by. This is kind of one of those. I wish Jim was here, but he's got family over. So, I mean, that's one of those that's top. Definitely one of the ones that comes up when you talk to machinists. I don't know if Starrett is anymore or not, but it used to be. So
that's one of the things I do for a living. Go as and audit laboratories, even your Mitutoyo. If everything with age and use will wear out and lose its accuracy, and it eventually has to be replaced. And that's why you have gauge blocks and stuff like that to check them. And once they start to drift, either send it in for calibration and adjustment, or depending on what the gauge costs. Sometimes most people just buy a new gauge. Don't even mess with getting it calibrated.
Okay, you mentioned something here that's important to probably everybody here, but they didn't catch it.
Gauge block.
Gauge blocks.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, you can buy a fancy set, or most people here, you could buy a 1, 2, 3 block, and that would suffice for everything we do.
Okay.
And Paul, you know what a 1, 2, 3 block is?
Yes, 1 inch by 2 by 3.
By 3.
Right. So, but that's something that people need to understand that they should have around to check to see if their calipers, their micrometers, whatever they're using, are in spec.
Right.
So, and that's why you get 3 dimensions out of it, and it's not something to be kept left out on the
exactly
on the reloading table, but to be put away in a box and in a drawer, and then taken out and definitely check the check everything out.
Correct.
But after spending almost 4 hours beating my head against the wall, why I get a half a thousand on setting the shoulder back, half a thousand, then get 0. Okay. And repeatedly doing this, and then getting frustrated and spinning a sizing die down a half a turn, and then getting 6 thousandths, and then going to the shell holders to adjust the amount of sizing, because the shell holders, we were at a +4. We went to we were at a +6. Excuse me, we were at a +6. We went to a +2, and thinking we'd only get 2,000 setback on it at that time, and then we started getting +3. Measuring it. Yeah, go ahead.
Were those different pieces of brass each time?
Yes.
Because those can change too.
Yeah.
I mean, not every piece of brass is going to be the same.
Well, these were all annealed, okay, and they were annealed in a the what do you call it, that fancy annealer, and they should be close. Same lot number, one box. Yep, one box.
Yeah. I'm wondering how much of that is when you do setback. Are you going to truly get consistent, say 3,000 setback each time, or do they want you to take an average?
Now I'm able to with a well prepared and brass on my presses, I'm able to get a consistent setback. Okay. So in other words, if I want 2,000, I can get 2,000. If I want 1,500, I may have to play with it to adjust my shell holders and my die to get it, but you can get it.
Okay.
It can get there. If I don't anneal the brass, it'll be all over the place. I can get it'll spring back to a to a 0, or I can get a -3 or whatever on it, depending upon what the brass wants to do. And that's even with good brass. I mean, that's with Lapua brass. It'll do that without a problem.
Yeah.
but you can get, and consistency in the resizing is also part of it. In other words, if when you go down and you do the press stroke and you just and push down and then come up, all right, and then the next one you go down and you go 1001, 1002, and you come up, you're going to get two variations there. Okay. So you're going to get one that's going to have more setback than the other one because you've held that brass down in compression longer. So the idea is to go, if anybody watches the Mark 7 videos, you watch the press comes down, it sits. You almost can do it with by countdown 1001, 1002. Then it starts coming up again. In other words, there's consistent sizing going on all the time. Same thing happens in a commercial reloading. There's consistent sizing going on all the time. So that's what we have to do. We have to make that sizing consistent, and that is going down 1001, 1002, or maybe even 1003, depending upon how badly that brass is moved and what you need to set it back to. But that's the key to making brass move correctly all the time. What we coming up against is having two different calipers sitting there going, you know, I'm 3 here, I'm 2 here, I'm you know, better calipers. Yeah, okay. Better tools as far as our reloading go. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it. There are inexpensive tools out there that will help you do your loading, improve your loading, improving your techniques in your reloading, press handle, going back to using a standard powder drop, rotary drum powder drop. Have the same movement each time. In other words, you come up, bang twice if you want, come down with a hard bang, drops the powder down, come back up, bang, bang twice, come down, drops the powder out. Or if you want to do bang once and then come down, it's just something that you do consistently every time to make your reloading more accurate.
Somebody in the comment had a question: where can you get a good U.S. made 123 box? iGaging, their gauge block is right at $31. If you do some searching online, that's just a quick gauge to check your calipers to see if it's reading what it's supposed to. If it's not, clean it and try it again. Then you'll know at that point whether you're off. Or your gauge is linear too. Because I've had gauges we can read, it'll read dead on at 2 inches, but anything lower than 2 inches, it may be low, and anything above 2 inches, it's high. So it's just something to think about.
Excuse me. So, dies. How about dies?
Definitely with dies.
Now, does it necessarily matter whose brand it is, or just a matter of whether they're made right?
Whether they're made right or not.
Correct.
there's nothing wrong with a lot of them, but some of them do have problems. And what you're doing, as far as shooting, as far as your reloading and your chambers, getting a die to fit better, that's up to you and your rifle or pistol or whatever you're shooting.
So the big thing, what's a way to check? So, Jen Champ Jr. says, Mike, everything possible. Calipers are just reference tools. So what he's talking about is using a micrometer versus a caliper. Hi, Allie.
Not everybody carries 3-inch, calipers or mics and all that. So they are. He's right and everything, but
you mean not everybody has one of these? Why not?
Yeah, not everybody has one of those. But 2 to 3 inch, 3 to 4 inch. I mean,
this one's only a 2 to 3, so that's not going to be much good either.
So
you really, if you're, I mean, for probably most of the stuff I have, you're okay. But if I'm going to check COAL on this, I'm out of luck. So
right.
Because I've got the 1 inch, I've got the 1 to 2, and then I have the I've got the 0 to 1, the 1 to 2, and the 2 to 3. This was in that collection of stuff that I got from the One Widow.
Okay, but you still would need a 3 to 4,
right,
and to really make it work. It'd be really nice, but I don't think we not many of the tools that we have to do the measuring and the checking are set up to use a micrometer. That's one of the biggest things. They're all set to use calipers. Your gauges from even Sinclair and short action customs are set up to use calipers. They're not set up to use a micrometer.
Mm-hmm.
Pistol die. Dylan, pistol dies have problems. Well, yeah, sometimes. Every die can have a problem. That's the one thing about a die. A die that we're buying is it can have problems. It is up to us to spot what the problem is and to either, if it has a problem, to get it fixed, I guarantee you that about 100% of the die manufacturers will fix any problem that they have with a die.
Yep. Yeah, they definitely will. So over on Rumble, LORDAR 22490 said it's good to have reference pins or blocks. You drop or hit your measuring instruments and you check the instrument to confirm it's still reading correctly. So, but so that kind of goes back to the calipers versus the micrometer. And if you have say you've got a 1 inch micrometer, you can use that to find something that you can measure. Like say, I've got this. So this is a piece. I can measure this with my micrometer, and then I can measure it with my caliper, and see if I'm getting the same reading.
Mm-hmm.
If you're getting the same reading, then it's a pretty good bet. And the reason I pick this is because it's steel. It's not wood, it's steel. So being metal and being a harder metal, it's a lot more difficult to fudge your measurements or have it change drastically between measuring it with one thing and another. So it can still happen, but the biggest problem is most people have no frickin' clue how to read a micrometer, as they find out when they buy a powder dispenser and try and use it. Somebody mentioned earlier they had the Lee powder dispenser and the gradations are in black. Yes, they are. What I did is I took chalk and rubbed it on there, and that's what got it to show up. So some people paint them, but yeah, no, Lee, it's all plastic and it's all black, so kind of hard to read. So, all right, what else can we beat into glue?
Well, all the dead horses out there. I am going to beat on the automatic tricklers, powder tricklers that are out there.
Yep.
Good ones and bad ones, and some of them expensive ones, and they turn to shit. And no names. But
yeah, we won't mention any, but if you've listened to this podcast for any amount of time, you know there's one sitting out in my garage that was garbage.
Yeah. What you want to, before you pick out a powder trickler, electronic powder trickler, pick out what you want what your ultimate goal is.
If it's speed, then there's one set you're going to be looking for.
Right.
If it's dead nuts accuracy and maybe sacrificing a little speed, then there's a different one you're going to be looking for.
Exactly.
So, some of them are made just to be fast and in the ballpark. So,
and consistency counts, guys. One that consistently throws over a half a grain, don't cut it. Okay.
No.
Find one that consistently throws under, preferably by a 1/10 or 2/10 of a grain, and you can work it from there.
I use a Lee powder dispenser for my 4895 when I load Grand or something like that, and it does wonderful.
But you've also learned how to use it.
Yes.
So that's the other catch. So.
And Paul's right. You got to do the 2-tap method. Once you got the rhythm and the routine to know to do it, it works fine.
Well, it's like my 308 load that I made for my Tika. 5 shots, 0.38 inch. The bullet is 0.308.
Yep.
100 yards. I was not shooting on the lead sled. I was holding the rifle like this, elbows resting on the bench. And I had the front on a sandbag. So, but yeah, that load was developed with powder dippers, which is one of the cheapest powder dispensers you can come up with. But it's consistency. It's learning how to use it, and it's being consistent. So I shouldn't say cheapest. I should say inexpensive, because they actually do a good job of making the cups consistent from set to set. Because I've actually come across another set, and then also Lee sends out powder dippers with most of their dyes, or at least they used to. I don't know if they still do. I haven't bought any Lee dyes in a while. But so every time I've gotten a Lee set, I've grabbed that powder dipper and compared it to my sets. And every single time it's consistent. So even though they're inexpensive, their manufacturing is consistent on it from singles to sets to whatever. So, that's another key feature. If cheap means it's usually inconsistent in manufacturing. So a lot of your stamped products wind up being, that's why when people are looking for AK receivers, they want milled over stamped because the milled are more consistent. Also, theoretically, the milled hold up better, but I've seen people blow up milled receivers just as much as stamped. So that theory is,
Their stamped receivers have been around for so long. They work. The only problem is that people abuse things, and everybody keeps saying, what was in the unit I was in, they had an AK-47 that they left rust. Okay.
Yep.
And everybody about once a month or so, somebody would come along and boot kick it to get it to chamber. Okay. To rack.
Yep.
You could shoot that thing all day long when it was a stamped receiver. There was nothing, nothing wrong with it. It's got a big block in there that got rivets through it that hold it together. But, what's the difference between a milled and that? It's, well, a forged and milled is something, but, just taking a regular block and eating away at it with a mill. Okay. So, yes, we are finding out if our Reloading Podcast shirts will be.
They will be for sale. It's just a matter of nailing out all the details. Hopefully, everything will be nailed down by next Tuesday. So, we'll see. But
so
anyway, oh my gosh. And this is why he's called Running with Scissors.
Yeah.
He says, "What up from the shorelines of Edisto Beach, South Carolina? We call it Eddie Slow."
Oh, I would agree with you, Running with Scissors. We were there over the 4th. It is slow because everybody has a golf cart and is moving very slowly.
It's one of those communities.
Yeah. Oh, and they don't like to scoot over in their little lane. They like to sit right on the center of the driving lane. It drove me nuts.
Oh.
Yep. That's why rednecks put train horns on their pickup trucks.
If I could put a song as a horn, I would, but it's not family friendly. I'll tell you guys behind this scene. Mike, you probably know what song I'm thinking of.
Yep. Hey, actually, in Teslas, you can.
Oh gosh!
Allegedly,
I need to find someone that has a Tesla.
Allegedly, in Teslas, you can actually put MP3s for your horn.
Okay, we'll be
now.
fine.
See, what you need to do is you just need to get a Raspberry Pi and hook it up to an external. You hook it up to a speaker like you normally would, except for you do a louder speaker, and you can do it that way. Yeah, there's lots of things I know how to do on cars that I shouldn't probably share. So, but yeah, train horns are always fun. You just got to see the key to hooking up any sort of horn on your vehicle. You cannot, at least in Wisconsin, I don't know about other states, but in Wisconsin, you cannot legally hook your alternative horn. So like a train horn, semi-air horns, Dixie horn, anything along that lines, you cannot actually hook it up to your standard horn button. You have to have a separate switch for it. And your standard horn has to work. So you can't disable your standard horn and only use that. So anyway, so we've covered calipers, dies, scales, balance beams, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see. What's the other? Trimming tools. Make sure you're getting good quality trimming tools. Make sure that the cutting edges are sharp. Make sure that it's consistent. So, just to show you an idea, this is a Lyman Universal. What you want to make sure is every time you slap a piece of brass in and you run this in to cut it, is this traveling the same? Is your stop moving, or is your stop fixed and it can't move? On this one, they did a really good job. They've got a double lockdown. Plus, not only do they have a double lockdown, they also have a set screw in here. So make sure that that's, only moving so far every single time, and it's consistently. Make sure this doesn't shift your brass holders. So everybody kind of does them a little differently to get around all the different things. Lee makes some hand ones that actually are pretty decent. But once again, it's learning how to use this stuff and being consistent. That one takes a little time to get used to getting the brass in right and rotating it around to lock the brass consistently. Because you can there's balls that it floats on, so you could put different pressure on and get it to move differently every time. So on the RCBS, the one I've got, it's got the shell plate, or it's got the plates that are held in with 2 screws. If you don't get that tightened consistently, then you can have different gaps and your brass can be different. So if you use a set of shell holders one time and use a different set of shell holders a different time for the Lees, that can change things. So, or if there's more flex in the shell holder, that can change things. If you're using an electronic or electric powered, are you putting the same pressure on every time? In the manuals, are you putting the same pressure? Because unlike that one I just showed you, the Lyman, you can actually push harder and get it to, if you force it, you can, adjust it, sometimes and get it to flex a little bit. And so, World's Finest Trimmers are great. The Gerard Triways are great. There's a couple other ones out there. But the problem is with the World's Finest Trimmer, if it's not set to the shoulder you're cutting, or you don't get that brass in there fully like you need to, then you could be partially cutting and trimming and it's not actually trimmed to the same length. So consistency in your press and your mounting surface. If you don't have the press locked down and there's flex in the base of your press, you may think you're putting enough pressure in every single time when you're resizing a case, but you may not be. And so instead of getting that case all the way up in the die like you're supposed to, it's only partially up in there. So, or, you get it set to, Shrenda, was that a deep thought? She just realized she wasn't muted. That's awesome.
That was one of those. What do you call it? A hiccup belch that hurts.
Oh, I hate those. Oh, that was awesome. That look on your face when all of a sudden you realize you weren't muted. You're like,
oh. It was like, oh crap! I must have hit something with my wrist on this damn mouse pad.
Yeah. GGW Outdoors said bench flex. Craig NMZ says clean surfaces as well. Yeah, absolutely. If you don't clean out your World's Finest Trimmer, you could have brass that actually builds up into the end mill that's in there. Same thing with the other trimmers. You could get brass shaving buildup, and that's enough for a thousandths. Thanks, Ollie. Dogs. All right, so here's one of those goofy things. Does anybody else's dog, when they fart, turn around and go, "What the hell was that?" Oh, sorry, he decided to blow me a butt kiss. Dang it, Ollie. Oh, the joys of dogs. Anyway, what else we got? Sharonda, anything you can think of? Ray? Nick?
No.
Paul had to step out for a minute, so.
Bullet molds?
Huh?
Bullet molds?
Yeah. If you're casting, making sure you're pouring right every time. Making sure your mold is consistent from chamber to chamber.
Well, we've seen an inconsistency on the actual mold itself.
Right.
Like Dad bought an 8mm Mauser mold once, or a 323 mold. It was basically no good from the factory.
Yeah.
It was just the way that they cut the cherry was just wasn't right. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, make sure that and I've seen complaints of molds where it's a 6 cavity and 4 of the cavities will throw one size and the other 2 will throw a different size. And it's not like the 2 that are throwing the different size are on the beginning or the end. They're in the middle.
Yeah.
And so they've tried, pouring those first and all sorts of stuff and trying to put, all the stuff that they put on there to smoke the yada yadas. So, making sure your temp's consistent, making sure you're stirring your alloy. There's lots of different things for casting. I mean, we could probably go on for a while with castings. So, but hello, Paul.
Hi there. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. So we talked about oh, good grief. We talked about some of the stuff with casting, like making sure your molds are consistent, making sure they're casting to the correct diameter, making sure your temps are consistent, making sure you're stirring your alloy, making sure your pot's good.
The pot.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'd say most people are starting with the leaf pots.
Right.
They do just fine.
Yep.
For most situations.
They do just fine. Most people, though, run them too hot.
Exactly.
Yep. Run them too hot and don't bother to clean up the bottom. And so then it doesn't close right and it leaks and they complain about that. It's a simple fix. You wait for the lead to cool and you toss it back in the pot.
Or else just leave the lead in the pot. I mean, I've done that and they will still work fine.
Yeah.
So, but as we go through this, oh, okay, Penny.
Hi, Penny. Thanks for joining the show.
Come here. Come on, up. Come on, up. Come on, Penny. No, she doesn't want to get up. She wants to go out. She's too big. Come on. Come on. You don't want to get up? Okay. Come here, Penny. Come here.
She's like, see ya. Aww. Oh, look at that adorable baby. She's like, okay, I want to go now, please. Thanks.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Yes, okay. I got a paw. I got a lucky puppy dog's paw. Yep. It's coming off, going on my keychain.
He's saying, "Where's my treat now? Come on."
Yeah. Too hot. That's mostly, people find that they're too hot, and then they think they lower it down a little bit, and they start getting a better casting, and then they're doing okay because the mold was cold. Now they got it up to temp because it's hot, real hot, and they don't they start getting wrinkles on it, and that's because it's still too hot, and they have to turn the heat down some more. Buy casting thermometer, guys.
Yeah.
Yep. $25 on Amazon.
Right. Buy casting thermometer. If you're it is a cheap tool that will work. It will, don't rely on the infrared ones or the laser ones or anything like that.
Because they only read the top.
They are not set for deep down metals. And so buy yourself a casting thermometer. Not a problem. Don't run too hot. You're going to run into problems with your materials separating and your different alloys separating, and you're gonna have to flux a lot more. And some of the other problems is that you're gonna wear your molds out faster, because most of them nowadays are aluminum, unless you are lucky and have some H&G molds or some Seikos that are nice steel molds that take forever to heat up, but they will continuously turn out good bullets with minor inconveniences of having to be taken care of as far as lubing them, keeping them rust free, and allowing them to cool slightly as you work through your molds. So, get yourself set up if you're going to cast and you want to cast a lot of one bullet. Get yourself set up to cast a lot of two bullets. That's all. That way you can interchange your molds, keep them in temperature, and not develop wrinkles and other problems.
Yeah, and especially like on that also note, if you're going to switch from doing like liner type number 2 to doing 20-1, try to get it as much out as you can, because depending on the pot, you could potentially run into issues there. So that's like, I'm fortunate I have 2 pots, 2 of the Lee 20-pound Pro 4s. One's going to be strictly set up for my just standard or 15 Brunel, and then one's going to be set up for my either pure lead or my 20-1. So I have the ability because I got them cheap enough, but we'll have that set up. So
yeah, and talking about casting and cheap tools, hardness tester. Lee probably makes the cheapest hardness tester there is, and it works. But I'll tell you right now, it's a pain in the butt to use, especially if you wear glasses. So I'd spend a little more money and get the I think it's
Seiko makes a good one that's readable. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the Lee will work, but you're gonna fiddle fart, and if you had the other one, you'd get it right the first time, and you're flying.
Right. And the other thing is to invest in a.
Good night, Sharenda.
Invest in a hot plate.
Yeah,
for heating up the mold.
Heating up your molds. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna be buying it for more than just that, because I'm with my new unit in Reenact I'm joining. There's a kind of a cool thing they do, so I'm gonna get a hot plate for that. But also, hopefully by this winter, I'm gonna have a whole casting cart built that'll stay in the garage. Buy one of those Husky 5-drawer toolboxes that I can just mount my casting pot or furnaces to, and just have everything there. Heat plate there, nice little spike bar. So that's the plan for this winter, is to have that. So I'll have more time to do my own casting. But yeah, like I said, hot plate, something if you get too cool, just set it off to the side. But then you need to say you overcool it, just set it back on that hot plate to heat it back up.
That's a nice way to go with it, because you're set up. You can have a cooling area. You can, where you undo your molds, you can get your sprues can go into one side, the bullets into another, and
I'm taking inspiration off Iraqi Vet, did a video years ago on his casting bench rollable cart setup. Yeah, I can keep all my fluxing stuff in there. Everything can be in there. All my different molds, just everything can be in one spot. Probably molds might stay in the house, being that my garage isn't the best temperature stable. You don't want them to rust. I might just have those in a nice bucket or somewhere, a box in the house, but we'll see. I got to play with that area still.
We'll expect a podcast episode on that, please.
Absolutely. I'm always watching Facebook Marketplace for a Husky 5-drawer toolbox or something.
Nice.
Or even I'll go Harbor Freight if I have to.
Yep.
If I end up going the wood top one, so
yeah.
As far as your molds go, there's a 3M product that's out there that is a wax, okay, and you can spray down your steel molds with that, but you need to clean it before you use it because the wax will build up on it and not allow it to close, and that way you can store them outside. Just so you know.
You just melt that off then, or
I spray it down with brake cleaner. Yeah, and it comes right off. But otherwise, yeah, it's just just spray it on when you're going to store them for a while.
Yeah.
Now here's a question: do you, when you finish done casting, do you put one in there and leave it in there, in the actual mold, or do you? Okay, I know some people. I've heard. Oh yeah, I cast it and I leave it in there.
Yeah, all you're letting it do is lead shrinks at a different rate than the steel does. Okay.
Exactly.
So you get an air gap in there, and you're sitting there going, "Oh, look at the rust that I got in there." No, take it out, clean it. Take a toothbrush for it, or and clean it up real good. Spray it down. Spray it with the 3M machining wax that they have, and all the way around, all the sides. Take it apart as far as the handles and everything else. So you just got the mold. Put it in a box, and then if you're really buy some of that what's that paper that they have, the
wax
rust
moisture,
the rust inhibited paper. Wrap it in that, put it in the side. That way you can leave it outside in the garage, and in a box. It's put away.
I might have to think about that. Yeah, look into that, especially if I can keep it away from having to have it stored in two places. Just have it stored in one place. It would be easier because I went to a casting session one night after work. I don't have to go. Oh, here you go down in the basement, get the molds and.
And Nick, I found in most garages, whether you've got a heater or not, especially where we live, you can leave things out there. What typically makes tools rust in a garage like that is when you go out and you do a project, fire up the heater, say it's wintertime, you bring it up to 70 degrees in there, you do your project and you're done, you turn everything off and it goes back down to 30 degrees. You get condensation on everything, and that's what causes things to rust.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when we do, you know how it is when we always did casting sessions in the wintertime, set up in the garage, crack the garage door just a little bit so you get that airflow out.
Right.
You're wearing jeans, you're wearing long sleeve shirt. You're used to the temperature at that point.
Yeah. It was just easy for me to bring my molds back in and keep underneath the reloading bench in the basement.
Yeah.
Well, I just find it easier if on my molds that I've always used, just keep them with the pots, okay? And I was going to put an indoor reloading casting set in this room that I have now, and I decided against it, and I'm going to do like Nick is and say, yeah, I'm going to build a bench and do it because I got time to do it now.
And that's how I was. When I was living myself, even if I wanted to cast in my own place, I worked 2 jobs. I was working 2 jobs. I didn't have time. Now that I'm only working one, basically the weekends to myself.
Yeah.
Go spend a day casting, and especially in the wintertime. What else are you going to do?
Yeah. I sit down and I sit there and say that I've always been too busy. I've always bought bullets and, pistol bullets in 5,000 round lots. Okay. Or 3,000 round lots, depending upon how they sell them. But in the old days, it was 45 ACP, H&G 68, and 2 Lee pots and a big propane dual burner camp stove. Okay. And you melt all the lead in the camp stove, and then you just ladle it from the camp stove into the pots and let it bring it down to the right temperature. That's all. So you could do a lot of damage as far as going through a lot of lead real quick that way.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's cold out, because you know how fast aluminum cools on
Yep.
a mold.
Yeah. Yeah. What's a $25 hot plate? It's easy enough to just have it, plug it into your spike bar, have it sitting right next to there. If you want to take a break, go grab lunch. Easy enough, just throw it back on that hot plate when you're done. Ready to start casting again.
Aluminum cookie sheet, great idea. Great idea.
Yeah.
Bolt it down. That's it.
That's how I'm thinking. If not a cookie sheet, even just aluminum sheeting, something I can underneath where my pots are going to be, something I can drill into to mount, especially on my lees, mount to that board top, or that hardwood top. Mm-hmm. So that's something you don't spill on a nice hardwood top. You put some cheap aluminum sheeting there.
It'll keep the tops from getting burned, and
mm-hmm.
and
the nice thing about the cookie sheet is if you get a stuck ball on your lift, the cookie sheet keeps everything inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's just something to think about, versus just putting a piece of you could put a piece of steel down too and do the same thing.
Yeah.
Except for the cost of it.
As I said, that's in the early stages of being designed. I'm gonna get my reloading bench built first.
Yep.
Then that's this later fall, winter project. Get that built and somewhere I have the garage space now. Dad knows it. I have a lot more space in the garage now. It can go on a corner or on a wall and roll it out when it's ready to be used.
I don't know. Did we discuss cheap priming tools?
No, we didn't.
There are cheap ones.
Yeah.
There are a lot of cheap ones out there.
I think 3 of us would agree on the best, probably for the price, the best one to get is the RCBS bench mounted one.
Yes.
For the price. It's hard to beat.
I think you're right there. I like the Holland adaptation to it.
Mm-hmm.
Holland Gunsmith adaptation, but you don't need it. I mean, it will work. There's no need to spend. I feel there's no need to spend $600 on one. People who want the precision of it, fine. Go ahead.
Okay. I've never used the Dillon one. How well does the Dillon one work?
On a Dillon press, you mean?
Yes.
I think that it's okay. I mean, for pistol, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it doesn't give me any adjustment in rifle, so I'm not particularly happy with that. But
you're kind of stuck with
what it gives you.
Yeah, what it gives you for the lever. The Frankfurt Arsenal hand primer actually has seating depth adjustment.
Right.
So.
Yeah, if you're going to go hand primer, that's probably, from what I've done my little bit of research on and experience with, that's probably hand priming wise the better one to go with. The Lyman, too much plastic on the actual seating portion. Lee, I haven't messed with the Lee. I don't think I ever have. And that fine. Yeah. You have said there's some okay with them, Mike, right?
Yeah. The problem is the Lees, the original ones, the way that they fed, there was an issue with people going too fast and popping primers, and then they daisy chain.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of like they do in the press. So Lee's had a couple of different iterations since. The newest one, the thing that I seem to see people hate the most is the tray. It's a triangle tray. It actually opens up, but there's a little switch on it that controls the primer flow, and it's plastic, so it kind of is fidgety. Um, it's decent. It's better than it's probably it's one of those that you have to learn the process because you have to hold it at a certain angle to get its flow right. Once you get that down, then it zips along pretty nicely. But you know, like most things Lee, it's got its quirks. So
The original Lee
it was amazing.
Yeah, but they made it out of pot metal. Okay, I mean, really, it was.
Yeah,
The thumb lever was.
still is.
Still is, huh?
Yeah.
I broke a couple. Okay, so I wasn't.
Well,
real
that's because
happy
you're
with it.
just a beefy human.
Yeah, well, I
Or
broke.
you're trying to cram primers into crimped cases.
No. When you're reloading 22 250 and you break one, well, that's
Yeah.
maybe my fault still.
So, it's most of them are made out of that same type of metal. So,
there is the Hornady, and there is one of the RCBSs that I'm not fond of.
No.
The both of them use shell holders, and I'm not really happy with those. Now, RCBS makes one that has an adjustable jaw that you set with a Allen key. You put the case in, you adjust it around. That one is pretty nice. That one seems to work pretty good.
Yeah.
The shell holder one, well, the Hornady one has to use Hornady shell holders, and the RCBS one always gets sent with a small set of priming punches. So you just can't get it all the way in there all the time.
Yeah.
Ergonomically, RCBS and Hornady are really nice. I mean, they're just, you can sit down and do this and you're fine. Actually seating primers though, pain in the ass. I'd take the Franklin too because the adjustability and the cost, which says a lot because the other ones are in the $60 to $80 range for one, for the one, and the set for Frankfurt Arsenal is what, about $80 now? You can get them cheaper than that though.
Yeah, they're not much. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick, see what that is.
I mean, but that includes the shell holders and everything that you need. So,
Since we're on the topic of priming, primer pocket swagers, you can go from cheap to you got your better ones of those. There again, they all work. It's just how much tinkering, how many do you want to get done in an hour?
Yeah. How well do they work?
Yes, yeah.
And it depends upon the press you have.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, some of them ain't gonna work very well in the press.
Right.
Other ones, they'll work in a press without a problem.
Yeah, maybe I'm the oddball. I do all my brass prep, other than resizing, is off the press.
My swaging is done with a RCBS bench mounted swager.
That's what I got.
The Dillon 600 is a great one too.
Yep.
the ones that fit on the press, with the addition of FW arms, case holder, and swaging rod, that makes a big difference. Along with the RCBS swaging tool that fits on the press.
Right.
And did you find anything out about that, Nick?
It's showing me MSRP is about $100.
Okay, $100, and you can get that.
Yeah, I know we get a discount. I can right now with my expert voice, which is like an online thing, I can get for like $45.
Yeah.
Which
but that
universal adjustable seam depth, and that's
and with the shell holders, right?
Yeah, shell holders, yeah, and it will take standard shell holders, correct? Yeah. I would think so, yeah, because you're not going to get everything with the shell holders provided, but
right.
But, yeah.
But a good selection. So you're sitting there looking at equal to the Hornady or the RCBS hand tool, and with a whole lot more there for you, added benefit.
You can get it at Midway USA right now for right at $80. Midway USA has got it in stock. So
what's that, Nick?
The Frankfurt Arsenal hand primer.
Now, a tool that isn't so cheap for the standard reloader out there is a case prep center. We can go from $130 to, oh my gosh, $550.
They're all over the board. It's crazy on those.
Yeah.
I will say anybody that doesn't have a case prep, if you can find, because you can find them on eBay, new and on like auction sites, is the old RCBS. I think it's called the Trim Mate. It's like the 2-tier one. It's their older model. They have the new model, but the older model, I see them sell all the time for like 40, 50, $60, and they're basically brand new. So, but I have the newer RCBS model, and so I like it, and I've always had luck with it. So,
yeah, I've got that Lyman one. It's been a good tool for me.
Now, those don't have a case trimmer built into it, right?
No.
Okay.
No, I use a hand trimmer is what I use.
So you use a Forester?
Yep, I use the Forester. Yep, which is
Lyman.
basically like the Lyman. They're all super similar.
Mini lathe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Now on those case trimmers, you can, if you want to take the time, take one that Lee makes that trimmer that's got the standard, and you put it in a shell holder, and you push down. I've seen people modify that and put it in their case prep center to trim brass. And that's, you could do it that way.
True. We could get into trimming cases with Gerards and that, but Little Crow Gunworks, drill mounted ones and everything else. Is it worth it though? I'm trying to think. I mean,
if you've got one cartridge, yeah.
Okay, one cartridge, but if you have freeloading 20 of them, or 10 cartridges, even 10 different calibers, it gets to be a bit of money. What are they, $80 some now, closer to 100?
Probably, yeah.
So
something like that.
FW Arms, excuse me, not FW Arms, but Frankfurt Arsenal has a case prep center that has a trimmer built into it, and it can be changed over. Right now, standard comes with a steel cutter on it. It can be I can't remember whose it is, but you can get a carbide cutter for it, which makes it go faster and cut better. I think it's an RCBS cutter can go on there. So you got some ways to improve it, and plus it gives you all the stations to do the primer pocket cleaning, deburring, and chamfering the case mount, and do all of that stuff, which is what the prep center from Lyman or RCBS does. And if you really want to go the slow and hard way, you can buy the Hornady standing the $500 case prep center, which has got the trimmer mounted on it, and all the little doodads on there. So, all right.
Well, anything else?
No.
All right, so let's talk about Patriot Patch Company. So here's the new patch of the month. Summer theme. Bravo 6, low and dark.
I love that one so much.
He's got a scar with nods while he's mowing.
Is that a scar or an ACR?
Maybe an ACR.
That might be an ACR.
I just looked at the buttstock.
They're both the same.
Yeah, they're super similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. Night mowing with a gas mower. I don't know if you're trying to be stealthy. I don't think that would work very well. But I wonder if this glows in the dark. So a couple of these patches they've had in the past glow in the dark, so I don't know if this one does or not. But oh god, that's funny. It could be Phil. So Patriot Patch Company is a sponsor of the show, patriotpatch.co. Make sure you swing by, check them out. We're also giving away, like I said a little earlier, we're giving away 30 patches before the end of August. So if you're listening to this after that, sorry. But Chris and I are going to get them all posted here quick. So this one will post actually Sunday night. Today is August 8th, and it will post what is Sunday, the 15th, 14th, 13th, 12th, 11th?
13th.
13th?
Lucky 13th.
Yeah, so it'll post on August 13th, one way or another. So next Tuesday, we will tell you the other 2 ways that we're going to give away those other 20 patches, because we have 10. It is posted on the Facebook page for the podcast, not the group. So the page, we can do a little more stuff. The group, we kind of limit so we don't get other people trying to do stuff in there. And yes, even though it's the podcast group, and technically I could push the issue, I'm not going to. So, because then it opens the door for other people to try and say, well, they got to do this. So it's just easier not to allow it. So anyway, probably one of them is going to be an Instagram, probably Instagram related, MeWe related, maybe, Discord related. So, sorry, we're not doing it on OnlyFans. Nobody wants to see this. So,
no foot pics, Mike?
No. Nope, no foot pics. Nobody wants to see that shit. Nobody. So, even my podiatrist makes me keep my socks on. Anyway, our other sponsor is forpatriots.com. Check them out. They've got their awesome generators, solar powered generators, which come in handy, especially with the amount of storms that we've been getting in the Midwest this year. Need power for CPAPs and fridges and microwaves and cell phones. Oh my God, we gotta have the cell phones. So, but you know, if you're most of the country, it's been pretty warm. I would want my air conditioning to be running. Thank you. Because if you have no power, that means no fans, no air conditioning. Yeah, you're going to be really swampy really quick. So, yeah, so that's why you want to go to forpatriots.com and get one of their awesome solar power generators. They had a couple of different options. If you use the code FRN, you get 10% off your first purchase. They also sell water treatment stuff and survival food packs and all sorts of cool stuff. So, GGW Outdoors. Travis, I haven't talked to in a bit. Jason, I just talked to. He's still busy with getting stuff situated and stuff. Plus, he's been working some overtime. Got to pay for that shed somehow. So, but Travis, I believe, still has Tuesday night kit stuff. So, but usually when he can join us, he'll let me know. So,
is he back home?
Oh yeah, he's been home for a couple months.
Okay, I knew he had to be out east for a while.
Yep, he was doing some training. All right, shout outs.
I got one. A 98-year-old World War II veteran that both my father and I knew real well just passed away late last week. Name was Vincent Speranza. Was in H Company, Machine Gun Unit 506. So was in combat at Bastogne with the Easy Company guys. Great guy, full-blood Italian. If you have never heard of his story, I recommend you look it up.
Yeah, he wrote a book, and the book is called Nuts. It's an extremely good book. You can get it online for as low as $10. So it's
we were fortunate enough to know him pretty well. He was a local to our community back home.
Yep.
As I said, 98 years old, was jumping till the day he died, basically.
Yep, he jumped every year on his birthday. In the last 10 years he had the tandem, but prior to that he'd solo jump.
So I want to shout out to you, Vince. You always be remembered. Always love you as a buddy. So
not many of them left.
No. We're losing. I think if I read 4 a day is the average. So that's why our big trip plan for next year is Normandy, do the D-Day, be there around that time of the year. Hopefully see some more over there. And so, but no, he was fortunate. I was knowing him super well, and they're not like that today. That's for sure.
No, definitely not.
The United States' greatest generation.
Absolutely. Well, that's like I was on a different note. I was listening to a podcast today. The Sean Ryan show had the only surviving flamethrower from Iwo Jima. He's also 98 years old. Was on his show. Put that into perspective. I think the casualty rate of a flamethrower on Iwo Jima was 98%, and the average life expectancy was 4 minutes. His unit went in with, I think, 550 guys. 14 went off the island.
Yeah,
it's.
Yeah, well, that was we who knew what was going to happen then?
Yeah, you didn't.
I mean, they had years to make that island the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one after that was even worse.
Yeah.
Okinawa was worse.
Mm-hmm.
So
So the full title of Vincent's book is Nuts, 101st Airborne Division Machine Gunner at Bastogne. So
I want to give it also Craig MZ. You'll enjoy it. I've never been on on an honor flight, but I would go to the local honor flights back home. They're a great time when welcome them home. And I'd say to anybody, if there's a local honor flight in your area, go out and support them coming back, especially the Vietnam veterans, because they didn't get that welcome home after the war. So they were treated pretty nasty a lot of times when they came home.
Yeah.
all right, gang. On that note, anybody else shout outs?
No.
Just a shout out again to Jake and Ryan for Patriot Patch Company for the giveaway. They're doing this all across the network, Firearms Radio Network. So if you don't win it from us, then maybe you could win it from one of the other shows. So, on that note, keep your brass shiny.
Teach them shoot and reload when they're young.
Jump on the Millsap short bus.
Grandpa told me not to listen to my mom. He goes, violence does solve problems.
Yep. Make sure you're supporting the Second Amendment any way you can, whether it's calling your local officials, your national officials, and letting them know. Make sure you pay attention to who's running for what. Make sure that you support your local and national organizations that you choose. Second Amendment Foundation, Firearms Policy Coalition, Gun Owners of America have all been doing a lot in the courts. Unfortunately, there's a lot of politicians out there that seem to think that Bruin didn't mean squat. And they don't really care. So unfortunately, we have a lot of lawsuits until we get one back up to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court said, yes, actually, we meant it.
Well, just a minute here. We just
took a loss today.
Yeah. Kagan backed out.
Yeah, we took a big loss today at Supreme Court. So
the frame and the receiver rule is back into effect.
Yep.
Because Kagan decided that it didn't matter. And
I didn't see that.
Yes, it was just happened this afternoon. And then, just so you know, the people in Illinois that are still out there, the Illinois Supreme Court ruled that they told after a circuit court has ruled two times.
Is it not three? I thought it was three.
Three times, excuse me.
Yeah.
3 times that the FOID card is unconstitutional. Okay, at home. Because the Illinois law requires you to carry the card on your person when you're at home. Okay? So when you go to bed at night, you have to carry that card on your person. And the judge said, the circuit court judge says that's unconstitutional. And 3 times the court has come back, and the Supreme Court has come back and said, no, it is constitutional. And they go, no. And the Supreme Court finally said, listen, circuit court, you're going to follow our rules or bang, 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 we're going to slap you. And it is constitutional to make you have a card that says you can be armed. And you have to carry that on your person. So that's that one. Everywhere else we've been winning little bits in here and there, not real cases, but temporary restraining orders, we haven't won a case yet. We have just been pushing the bar up a little bit.
Slowly fighting to get it up to the Supreme Court.
Well, it's got to get into the court first before it can happen. Okay.
Yep.
So we get cases where they go to court. They make their arguments. The judge hasn't had time to rule, and they ask for restraining orders. And this is a political
ploy, basically. Yeah, game. Yeah, and
it's a game.
And then with the one that they tried to pass was, I think, about a month and a half ago. Basically, if you're going to sue any state agency official, 2 counties. So they're trying to make it harder for us.
And then the latest one, Congress. What's that one? 1,000% tax on guns.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Well, wasn't it just ARs and magazines?
Anything that's an assault rifle.
Yeah, but what they call an assault rifle, it doesn't mean what you call it. Assault rifle means it's a fully automatic machine gun, as far as I'm concerned.
Correct.
But they sit down. Anything that's got a magazine more than 10 rounds, that's an assault weapon. So handguns, everything, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
1,000% tax. So what? That's a $5 gun is going to cost what? $555 or $505, right? And then $500 gun is
5,000.
5,500.
That'll never stand. That won't stand.
Oh, they can do it.
You're killing an industry is what you're doing.
Well,
they
that's
don't
what
care.
they want. They don't care.
They don't.
Buy a High Point. There we go.
Even at that point, you're still High Point. $170, $1,700 or $1,700 gun.
Yeah.
What FN needs to do is put that same $1,000 hike price on what they sell the government.
Yep.
And see how long that lasts.
Yep.
So the best thing I can tell everybody to do is to memorize the number for your critters that are representing you. You think that they're representing you, and put their number on speed dial, and be nice when you talk to them.
Yes, be nice. It doesn't help to get irritated because then they just automatically discredit whatever you said.
Right. So you can tell a little prick in a nice voice that please don't do that, because I won't vote for you in the next, not election, don't say election, primary. I will vote for the opposite person. That's all.
Unfortunately, in Illinois, I think it's a lost cause.
Well, I'm not saying it isn't, but I'm just saying
some of your local people, I would agree with you, but your statewide offices, it's a done deal.
Yeah, okay. But it doesn't matter. There's a lot of other states out there that it isn't a done deal. And maybe that phone call is going to convince them. Tennessee is going through a whole big thing right now, trying to get red flag laws put in their place. Okay. Now Illinois already has got red flag laws up the yin yang. As soon as it looks like you're having problems, they got you already. But Tennessee is after that last public, which they haven't released the manifesto of that she shooter. What was it, he or she? I can't remember. And because of that, they're sitting there saying a red flag law would have worked. What? Pre-crime, guys. Remember that? Pre-crime.
Yep. Just like Judge Dredd.
Judge Dredd, and what was the other one with that other anti-gun actor that out there, Tommy Cruise? Yeah,
Minority Report.
Yep, Minority Report. So, anyhow, I'm gonna say goodnight, gentlemen.
Yep. Make sure if you're struggling, 988 or 1-800-273-8255. They've got trained professionals there to help you. Mental health is serious business, dudes and dudettes, and they, them, us, you, me, we, whatever, however you refer to yourselves. Make sure you reach out and get help. That's important. So, thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Get out that dust rag.